when my older kids back in the late 80s started school, they only had to have 2, 4, 6 months, 12 months, 15 months, and then another set of shots. That was 10 vaccines total by the time they started kindergarten. She was supposed to have 72.
Welcome to the Crunchy Moms Unfiltered, the podcast where we question everything and say the things no one else will. I'm April Locani, a serial entrepreneur turned naturopathic practitioner and just a truth-seeking mama.
And I'm Brandy Lemire, a social media influencer, a certified nutrition response practitioner, and just a crunchy mom who's done with censorship and refuses to co-parent with the government. April and I built this podcast as a safe space for moms and dads to have real, raw, uncensored conversations.
From what's really in our food to the truth about modern medicine, we're diving deep into the topics no one else wants to touch because an informed mom makes empowered choices.
No filters, no fear, just real, raw talk. Welcome to Crunchy Moms Unfiltered.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to Crunchy Moms Unfiltered, the podcast where we share raw, authentic truths, uncensored, things that you get, hushed about on social media. We share it all here. And today we are so excited. We have Debbie. She is a special needs activist, mom of 4 from Chicago, coming to share her story. She calls herself a voice to the voiceless. We are just so excited to hear her story and her outlook of how vaccines made a difference on one of her children. And I'm not going to take any of the throne from you on this one. I want you to share all the things. So I know that you have 4 children and one of them is special needs and she is nonverbal, correct?
Yes, no words, not one.
Right. Okay. So, and that's where the voice of the voiceless comes from. I love that so much. So what age did you notice any kind of difference with your child?
Oh, well, she was a surprise at 4, when I was in my 39 years old. And after I had her, went along with the vaccine schedule as planned and all, but she seemed off. Her eyes were off because I nursed all my babies. She never looked at me in the eye. She never paid attention to much of anything. And at 4 months, she started having seizures, grand mal seizures, where she stopped breathing, literally thought she died. So it was very scary at the time. But of course, then she ended up moving into the room with me in her own space. And you start exploring all those reasons for why the seizures when you have 3 healthy older children.
So that kind of led you down your journey of being a special needs activist. And that kind of brings your story out in full circle. Okay.
So we're talking 2 decades I've been at this with her. But again, 37 years old is my oldest. So yeah, I've got almost 4 decades of kids.
You're an OG mama. You're one of the OG mamas. And it's interesting. I feel like, the topic of vaccines is part of the reason that we've launched this podcast is to be able to have a place to have these conversations without censorship. My youngest, who will be 9, was injured by a vaccine when she was an infant. And so, I feel like when you think about it, you think like this is something new. This is something where you're just starting to hear about kids getting injured. It's the increase in the schedule. But that's not the case with you because your daughter is 22 years old. So, I have one of my really good friends back home. Her son is about your daughter's age, and he was injured by the MMR, 20 years ago. And so people don't think about that. They think about how it's a newer movement and not how these have, even when the schedule was lighter and the kids were getting less, that they were still causing damage. And so honestly, that's why I reached out to you and we asked you to come on here because in the last few weeks we saw RFK give a speech and I have kind of mixed feelings. I hope that he's going to do everything he says he's going to do. I don't know why he was promoting the MMR. It's a whole nother topic for another day. But he had this speech where he was talking about autism. And he was talking about, this is why I don't like the media. If you listen to what the media said, they gave clips and pieces. I sat and listened to the whole interview, which is what every person should be doing before they're posting about it on social media.
Yes.
Listen to the whole interview. And he said, this group, which you said it's 25 or 27%.
It's 27%.
27%. So he was clearly talking
about my group, right?
Yes, he was talking about your group. He was talking about the 27%. When he said these autistic children, they will never hold jobs. They will never pay taxes. They will never live on their own. And the community, the Crunchy community, the autism community, they erupted and they were coming for him. And they're like, autism is a gift. And how dare he say that? And my autistic child is a gift. And so I really want you to share what your journey's been like with your daughter, because when I said to you autism was a gift, your reaction, and I want everyone to hear on here, your reaction was not autism is a gift. And so,
well, I think there's also different kinds, right? Like, okay, if your kid's on the slight spectrum, maybe that gift is a gift for you.
Well,
but not everyone's like that.
Exactly. Again, if I had a child that could talk, and again, at her special needs school, which they are close to her age, and they do have an adult program, the kids can talk. Some can't, but they still have issues. However, some of them can work. There's a whole group that are just life skills kids forever. I mean, she's still in diapers, you guys. She gets a period like any other girl her age would. Guess who has to clean her, bathe her, feed her? She can't go get her own food. She can't go. I don't call that a gift. She has no independent lifestyle. I am it. I am her caregiver 24/7. She doesn't choose to eat during the day, and she chooses to instead decide to eat at 2 a.m. So I have to have various foods prepared for her throughout the evening so that she eats. I have to make sure her medicines are correct. She's on 3 different seizure medicines. We also fought the doctors back in the day to get on the cannabis registry, which she is on. So, I mean, I have used all natural routes, tried everything. Purchased the hyperbaric oxygen chamber back when she was 3. I dove for 2.5 years with it. I felt great. She did nothing improve, nothing whatsoever. But to have a child that can't speak and to have wants and needs and can't even tell you what they need or if they're hurt, she has bruises on her knees and nobody can tell me what happened at school. She can't tell me. I don't know, like when she gets her period, if she's been crying, what the deals are. So when people are talking about gifts, and I'm on dozens of autism sites, it has been like an explosion of one side to the other. And a lot of them are autistic people answering that for themselves. My daughter couldn't pick up a computer and tell you a word. So no, it's not an easy life. It's a very hard life. I haven't been on a vacation. She's 22 since she was 4. We haven't been to Disney because just planning, I have to deal like I'm the Secret Service and have everything mapped out in my head, mapped out for her. I have a transport chair for her in case she decides she doesn't want to walk at that moment in time. I mean, there's a lot of input into it. It's very complicated socially and medically. So, plus if she only eats like 2 foods, and that changes. Ultimately, that changes too. It goes from one week it's peanut butter and jelly, the next week it's turkey sandwiches, to the next week it's cereal. So you just have to follow her lead. And no, I don't. It just blows me away the number of people that literally came out against him. And I understand they thought it was a smack at them, but you know what? They can be heard because they can speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Kids like my daughter cannot. And you know what? They're forgotten. They sit in schools, they sit in classrooms, and we have some of the best staff and teachers that take care of these kids along with us. I mean, because if I didn't have that option, I think I would probably be insane by now. But
I mean, kudos to you. I'm like trying not to cry over here.
I know.
It's like I can't imagine. And then watching you, I was joking with April before we started this podcast. When you first came on, you were dropping some vaccine facts, and I'm like, I'm 43, and I'm like, you're me in 20 years, and it's that's another thing to think about. Like in 20 years, my youngest will be 29 years old. She'll be living on her own. She might have her own family, and I'm like literally gonna cry. You have to like worry about like when you guys get to old age and you are needing help taking care of yourselves, who takes care of your daughter?
Well, that's right now with the guardianship, because my daughters are your ladies' age with their own families, and I would not burden them. This is how much of a gift it is. I would not put that burden on them to raise their sister. It's not their responsibility. She is my husband's and my responsibility, and the guardianship will go to my oldest daughter. Well, but as a group, the 3 kids will decide where to put them. There are some good homes, but I worry about all the other abuse. And, if there's something that keeps me awake at night, that I just keep telling God that have to live forever because nobody's going to take care of her, of course, like me.
That's like, again, I'm like literally trying not to cry, but I watched all these people on social media that don't have a child on the spectrum. They don't, it's like someone like me sharing my opinion. And I'll share things when it's like a hot topic in the news. I have not publicly shared anything about that RFK speech because I wanted to open this forum up and find the right family before I share something, because I don't have a right to share on that at all.
Right.
I've never walked a day in your shoes.
Talk about it unless they've ever dealt with it. And again, the saying goes, if you've met one person with autism, you've only met one person. And that is so true because they're so different. And the thing is, we could take each of the kids in my daughter's school of autism, throw them in a bag, shake it up. I wouldn't want to pick anybody but her name to take care of because I know how to take care of her. Each kid has their own differences to go along with it, so no, I have so many families that I know that the parents are struggling. I mean, we're isolated. We don't go anywhere. That's why I read a lot of news. I'm very savvy as far as the what's going on in politics. I can tell you everything there. But as far as that, it's a very isolated, very lonely existence. I babysit my grandsons, and that's what gets us out. And Lexi does love going with me to them.
Oh.
So that is a good thing because she's mentally younger than they are, and they're only 4 and 5 years old. So
I've watched a few other parents and messaged with a few other parents that have children that are not typical, like your daughter. But their story, you're talking about the struggles of having an adult. I mean, my 9-year-old, I can't imagine having to change her diaper. She's 9, like that. I can't imagine. I have a 18 and a 23-year-old daughter. I can't imagine. And the other side, though, that I'm seeing that I don't think it's talked about enough too is parents of autistic children who are, like yours, nonverbal, but there's violence. And I'm watching these.
There's a lot of it too.
Posts where they're showing the bloody scratches and bruises on their face or their body from the trying to help the child through an outburst. Or my girlfriend that I was talking about, her son has I couldn't even list off the number of disorders he has all from this vaccine, and one of them is intermittent explosive disorder. And so they had to put like steel in there when they build their house to like reinforce the walls because he was just ripping through walls. He'd get upset, and it's not something like a typical kid throwing a tantrum. And when you've got a grown man that's doing this, like, that's the thing where it really hurts my heart to see people sharing their opinion, and you don't know what it's like to walk a day.
No, I have friends and friends, not family, but friends from Oak Park. I'm local here in Sarasota now. And yes, they had to literally put up padding on the walls because their son literally ripped up his room. Others, they've had to put them into homes because they literally physically couldn't care for them anymore. I mean, and that breaks my heart because when you see that type of not being able to care for your own child, it's hurtful.
Yeah.
Then I see parents struggling just to pay bills and then struggling with their kids. And you're right, the violence, the self-injurious kids it's really a tough one where they'll hurt themselves, they'll bite themselves, or they'll fight back. The schools don't want them. So they're home with the parents. And that's a tough gig. I don't know how they deal with it.
Well, I love you being a voice for the voiceless. I think that that's massive, and I think that it's easy to say it's a gift, and it's easy to talk about your child that's lightly on the spectrum, that might be quirky or have a few different things, but that's not, and that might be the majority, and that's great. That's great that that's the majority, but we've got to give this percentage that RFK was talking about that you're living. Like, I feel like we need to give them a voice. And we need to share those stories, and we need to look at, even the parents that say my autistic child is a gift. We need to look at what's causing all of these divergent issues. We need to understand why. And I do think if RFK is going to expose that, I think that that's a huge thing, because I think parents need to understand what's going on.
Well, that's the biggest argument I've been having online. People are like, well, I can't believe they haven't done other vaccine studies. I said, yes, they have, but this is 2025. Excuse me. Vaccines have changed, and so has science. Let's keep up with science.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I had the
go on.
luxury of meeting Del Bigtree and Andrew Wakefield
Oh,
for the Vax movie when it was shown here in Sarasota. We actually went to dinner with him and Mr. and Mrs. Compalthacrast, because do you know the Compalthacrast family has 2 autistic children too.
oh,
Their
wow.
oldest is nonverbal, so they're very big in the community, and they believe in the vaccines were the cause of their children, because they now have 6 kids, 4 are healthy and 2 not. So, and everybody's story is different on what our kids can and can't do. So but it does need to be told. The stories need to be told, and there is a common theme. It's whether it's environmental, whether it's the vaccine kicked off some genetic defect, because that's where I feel what lies in my daughter's beginnings.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say is, so when did you notice? So did you notice from the day she was born something was off, or did you notice after a vaccine schedule? Like, give us a little history of why you're so passionate about the vaccine schedule.
Because again, it's looking back. When you have typical kids, and again, when Lexi was born, I had a kindergartner, a middle school child, and a high school cheerleader. So I was literally and stay-at-home mom. So I was, all right, life goes on. No, it's just another baby. Gonna take care of her, nurse her, and everything. But it was just off. Everything was a little bit harder to do. And then after the second dose of DTP, it was the first year the 5-in-1 came out in 2003. The DTaP, the Hib, and the polio were all in one first year. So why would I question it? I had kids that had been vaccinated, and within 5 days of getting that vaccine, she was in the hospital having seizures. She literally stopped breathing and passed out, turned blue. We didn't know what was going on, and that's when we found out the seizures. So then when you saw in the EEG that it's slowing, well, it still didn't hit me that it was the vaccine until you go forward a while. But every time she had a vaccine, the seizures became severe. Her pediatrician locally here in Sarasota stopped the vaccines. The neurologist stopped the vaccine. She has never had her MMR, and she has never had another vaccine since then. And you should have saw me during COVID. If you want to talk to somebody that I said, you put a mask on her, you do anything, you got an answer to me, because I believe in shedding and all that COVID vaccine. If somebody said it doesn't shed,
Yes.
so yes, it does. So I don't doubt that we all had it. She had COVID. It lasted her 2 days. I had COVID. It lasted me 3 weeks. None of us, of course, were vaxxed, but there was no need for the hysteria and whatever happened there. And do you know that her special needs school opened up in June while the public school unions were fighting to keep those schools closed? It was the insanity that I witnessed, because, okay, from a parent trying to protect her child, I thought, oh no, she's going to go to school and she's going to catch it and die. And you know what? When it wasn't happening on her campus and they opened full time, and the public schools with the typical kids weren't even going because, oh, everybody was wanting, you're going to kill your teacher. Oh, that's insanity. And then we had our own local doctors from Sarasota Memorial telling them, oh no, you have to mask up. You have to get vaccinated. You can't open the schools. Everybody's going to get it. I was just like, you guys are nuts. That's it. When you're living with a child that has special needs, she should have been first to die. If you want to be honest, the drug addicts and the homeless should have been gone. Didn't happen. So you can't, to me, that's science in and of itself.
And so when you stopped vaccinating based on your pediatrician and your neurologist, did you ever say, okay, why are we stopping? Like, because that's always what I always laugh about, right?
Oh, we knew that because it was a trigger, because they brought on the
Right.
seizures. We thought, why are we going to bring on the seizures? And
No,
then,
I know. I just laugh because it's like they know enough to stop it.
yes,
But you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
You do it. Oh, wait, stop. Something's happening. But you know it has a chance to create these issues.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm like, you never go, well, why? What's your science behind stopping, right?
One of the only ones in Sarasota County, because when she started kindergarten, when she started public school at Oak Park, which is public, I had to fill out the vaccine form. And I said, I don't have one. And they said, well, she can't attend school. I said, do you want to take me to court on that? And they said, is that your stance? I said, sure. I said, I'll go to her pediatrician and see what he'll do. He signed off on them and said, no more vaccines. And he gave me the exemption. I didn't have to go because I said, I refuse to go for a religious exemption because this has nothing to do with religion. This is on medicine. So no, I would rather see, the thing is, you need parents and people to push back and say, no,
yes.
It's not religion. This is medical reasons. It's our right to do what's right for our kids.
Yes, and that's even, we have religious exemptions. And I feel like you should be able, any family should be able to go and get a medical.
Yes.
Without any question. And just this, I don't medically feel that this should be given to my child. But I will say, here in Florida, because I'm in Manatee County, so I'm right next door to you.
Yeah.
Getting a religious exemption, for anyone watching this, I talk a lot about exemptions on my Instagram because most parents don't know what an exemption is. I didn't know what an exemption was until she was injured. I'm sorry?
No, you're right. Because my oldest daughter just had to do it for her son because she's no vaccines for him to start school.
That's amazing. Yeah.
In Hillsborough.
You don't know what it is because you get the letter from the school saying if you don't turn in your vaccine records, your kid can't come to school. And most parents they're like, oh my gosh, okay, well, I got to get them vaccinated. They go make sure they have all their vaccines. And so I love talking about exemptions. There's only 4 states that don't allow anything but medical. And it's like California, I think Connecticut, New York, I forget the 4th. I have it on
Not shocked.
And it used to be 5. It used to be West Virginia. West Virginia just added in religious. But here, literally in Manatee County, I emailed the health department. For my oldest, I had to go in. So I went in, I met with the nurse. She tried to make me sign some form saying I understood that I was putting my child at risk. I refused to sign the form. You don't have to sign that. I got her exemption. For my younger one, I literally emailed the health department. They emailed me back, asked me 4 questions about her, and then emailed me the form. It was so easy to do. And so we'll put a link in the show notes to the exemptions for each state. Just if you're watching this, if you're new to exemptions, you want to know what the rules are in your state, we will make sure that is easy for you to find. But Debbie, this thank you so much. I know I messaged Debbie on Facebook and was just like, can you come on a podcast? We'd love for you to share.
I know, a day ago.
Yes. So
we move quick.
We so appreciate you coming on here.
Well, thank you.
A voice to the voiceless. Is there anything that you want to end on, or you feel like people should know, or that you want to be heard?
But that's the thing. I just think that people need to question everything because it's not always. And again, sometimes we're too close to things within our own families, or you just automatically do things because you have older children. And like you said, you get the letter from the school, you run and get them vaxxed without even thinking. No, ask to see the inserts, ask questions, everything. Now I question everything. So that is so important because again, for my grandsons now, for those that are coming next, I worry for them. The thing is, whatever genetic mutation has, it's de novo, meaning it's only happened in her. So what was that trigger? Because others that have her genetic mutation, some are autistic, but most of them are just as articulate as you and all of us having this conversation. So that you have to question it. There's some other trigger. Something else is going on. I'm really looking forward to RFK taking on the food, the food industry, get rid of all the stuff that we shouldn't be having in our food. I mean, when I grew up, they didn't add all those preservatives. But why were
Right.
they allowed over the years? When you're
It's crazy. But
yes.
you know what? You said something before, and I want you to say it again because it was important about the difference when someone comes to you and goes, "Well, I was vaccinated. What's the difference? I'm fine."
Oh,
What
right.
would your answer be to them?
Well, that's fine because everybody is different genetically. So what if she just had a switch that day it just flipped and
Well, or the fact that we talked about we've only had, what was it, 10 vaccinations?
go back. Yes, when my older kids back in the late 80s started school, they only had to have 2, 4, 6 months, 12 months, 15 months, and then another set of shots. That was 10 vaccines total by the time
Oh,
they started kindergarten. She was supposed to have 72. We stopped at 24.
72.
72.
Let's just touch on that. Let's park there for a second,
There,
right?
exactly.
10
So hold on.
vaccinations.
Why does a baby need a Hib shot unless their parents a drug addict? You don't.
You don't.
So this goes into there's two things I want to touch on. This goes into the 1986 National Childhood Vaccine Act. And so a lot of people don't know about that, but I'm an 80s baby. And so
Yep.
in the 80s, I'll be real quick. In the 80s, the vaccine manufacturers went to Reagan and they said, "We have so many families trying to sue us. We're going to stop making vaccines unless you take away liability." And so Reagan signed the act and they took away liability from the vaccine manufacturers. Debbie, you could probably spit a ton of facts on this, but it's like the only consumable product where you can't sue the manufacturer. So the schedule increased after that, which is very interesting.
Yep. Not
And
to
what
mention,
else?
if you were
Wait,
to take a teaspoon of what's in those vaccinations,
yes.
you know what I mean? You'd be
But
arrested for
look
giving
at
your kid a teaspoon of that.
look at the level of autism in society since they did that. It just has totally increased year upon year. And I'm going to tell you what, I personally seen more younger kids, more families that everybody I know has been touched with somebody with it. And some have nonverbal. They understand. Before, nobody knew what nonverbal was. Believe me, I didn't know what nonverbal was because I had daughters and everybody talked nonstop.
And something you said earlier too was 2003, the
Yeah.
combo vaccination started. So the reason I'm parking here is I want listeners to understand we all know this stuff, right? So we're
Yes.
having a conversation like foundational on knowledge. But anyone new
Right.
here, they didn't know about the 1986. Bet you they're gonna Google something after we get off this call. They're gonna after we get off this podcast and after they watch our show, they're gonna be looking in our show notes, they're gonna be looking for facts, and we will provide all of it because our community houses all of this information. Our community houses all of this information, documentaries, everything you could find that you need. Because there's been several Western medicine doctors that came out. Several Western medicine doctors turned functional after asking questions and causing pushback on Western medicine. That's when they realized a lot.
Well,
So
Dr. Wakefield, he was
yes.
literally, man, yeah, and what a good guy. So it's terrible,
And
terrible.
like you said, the combo vax is where a lot of those problems are happening, and those didn't even come out to 2003. So, Brandy, you and I, maybe some of your oldest kids, we wouldn't have had a lot of
Yeah,
those.
exactly.
So, we wouldn't
But
have had the same issues or reaction to
right,
be able to sit here and tell the story, right?
correct.
So, I just wanted to park there for a second before we end. We could be done now.
Well, hold on.
I
I
just
have
like,
one more point. I have one more point I wanted to make. So, because there is the whole vaccines don't cause autism group of people. And so I want to make sure you mentioned a genetic mutation. So I want to make
Right,
sure that we're doing our due diligence when we're talking about things. So the other side of things that I feel like, and Debbie, you brought up food and RFK looking into our food, is epigenetics play a big role.
yes,
And
right.
so I think a great book, Dirty Genes, great book by Dr. Ben Lynch. Absolutely love that book. I think that vaccines are one piece to the puzzle.
Yes.
yes, you're right. You're right.
Do I think that is vaccines are the cause of autism? No. Do I think that vaccines, glyphosate, chemicals in our food,
Yes.
all the toxins in
Yeah,
our daily life? Do I think that it's every fluoride? Do I think it's all of these things that we're exposed to? 100%.
Yes.
You're right. You're right. And we're not medical professionals. We have some licenses and certificates, but we're not giving medical advice. We're just giving you the things we researched, right? For the viewers to be able to take this information and do what you want with it, because we are not judgmental for those who choose to vaccinate. We are just moms who are informed. And when you're informed, you make empowered choices. So we just like to share that. So let's like say that right now, right?
Right.
Don't come for us. We're not doctors. We have done a significant amount of research. I am a naturopath. I do work with functional medicine, but I'm not a Western medicine doctor. I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm just giving you some knowledge.
This is educational purposes only.
Or for entertainment purposes only.
And experience with my own kids. That's it.
Right.
So
Well, this is great. Debbie, you're amazing. And you're local to me. So I'll have to find you and we'll have to meet up one day. But thank you so much for just being so open and just sharing your story.
Well, it was a pleasure meeting you both live and getting on. So you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Debbie.
Yes, and thank you everyone for joining us. As you know, you can find all the details for this, to how to follow, how to find everyone, in the show notes. And we'll also link the community that houses a bunch of resources for you guys. And the book will be linked below as well. So we'll catch you on the next episode.